Hey guys, this will be video 12 for the how to design build a custom Sparkle Flying V using Stuart McDonald templates. And I'm going to spend a ton of time in this video doing mock-up and comparatives between different type of bridges, tailpiece configurations, uh, output jacks, you name it. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about conceptual things. So we'll try to, let's see if I can get that squeak out. So for the primary reason, might be noisy. This guitar is listed on eBay. It's going to sell this Sunday. I gotta get in the saddle with this guitar and get it finished, or at least get it to a point to where people whom are looking at it will know exactly what I'm offering, or what I can add to the guitar. I don't have a problem taking this thing to a complete guitar, but I don't really want to. Only because I'm so busy doing other stuff and I'm really, really getting behind. But if there's someone out there that's just got to have their pickups installed, well, if you sent them to me, then yeah, I'll put them in and we'll work that stuff out. But nonetheless, I don't have a problem doing all of the wiring harness, and I probably will start taking it in that direction, but I won't be doing any soldering until it sells, and then someone lets me know exactly what they want to do. Because, a lot of you guys out there, you're really good at that type stuff, or you've got a local shop that can help you pull that off. So, what I'm going to do, the high points I'm going to cover will be all of the mock up. And I mean, we're going to look at the difference between amber versus gold versus speed knobs versus nickel clean, clear nickel antique to relic. So hopefully you'll really be able to see the guitar that you might be truly interested in. But so that'll be one of the high points. The other points I'm going to cover, I'm going to spend a good bit of time talking about theory and design and where this guitar came from. This is not just a pretty face. I've been building guitars a very long time, and this is the seventh Flying V that I've built, and over the course of like 10 or 11 years. My first, talking about just the Flying V, I've been building guitars for about 25, 30 years, but my first Flying V was built about 10, no, probably more like 12 to 13 years ago. So I've always had kind of a love for the V and the whole design, but there were a lot of things that I didn't like about it. So I set off to redesign the Flying V, but basically the reason I'm holding this Les Paul template is because what this thing boils down to is right down the middle of the body. I'm going to be talking about, this is really like a 58 Explorer, or it's a early 60s SG, or or it's a 50s Les Paul, because this is a 24 and 3/4 inch scale guitar. It's not a 25-inch scale, and it's not a 24.562. It's a spot-on, historically accurate scale. So when you make little micro changes like that, it affects everything. And this template that I'm holding is based on a 1959 Les Paul burst that was owned by a man by the name of Dan Erlewine with Stuart McDonald, StuMac, luthier supply. That's where I get a lot of my stuff. And I've built quite a few Les Pauls, now, replicas. I need to always clarify replicas now. And I've built a whole bunch of custom guitars. So So those are kind of the two high points, and then I'm sure I'll probably segue a little bit into the world of solid body versus hollow body, because I've got this guitar right here is probably the pinnacle of my Flying V design. This is a hollow body, and it's probably going to be my keeper Flying V, or I will be possibly taking this up to Nashville and seeing if I can get it hanging on the wall at one of the really high-end shops up there and just list it for sale up there. So anyway, we'll do a bit of a flyby. I've got all of the lacquer work finished. I finished it this morning and just took it out of the spray booth. It's really beautiful. but it hasn't been buffed yet, so you might see a little bit of funky blotchiness, but I don't think so. But this is not the finished. This is not the finished finish, meaning I'll have to buff it and or wet sand it and then buff it out. I always love finishing my guitars in a matte finish because I'm a player. I don't like collector guitars, and I'm going to shoot really straight with you. If you're a collector and you're looking to buy something just because it's shiny, snappy, and cute, and you want to hang it on the wall, hit the road. And I'm going to be a real jerk there because I'm a player and I build guitars for players, and I don't want to hear anybody whine about the fact that oh, wow, that's a little bit this or it's a little bit right or a little bit left. If that's the guitar you want, you need to go get in line at where and buy something made from somewhere else and from the other side of the world. Okay, it's real shiny and real pretty, and it's a CNC guitar. So these are handmade guitars, and you can feel it, you can hear it. It's phenomenal. But visually, they're not perfect. There's going to be a few little nicks and dings and this, that, and the other. But this guitar is the body is quarter sawn antique pine. And what quarter sawn means is uh, the annular rings go vertical. Most guitar bodies are plain sawn. The annular rings go this way, but these go straight up and down. And it contributes to a far more vocal body. It's just a phenomenal sounding guitar. And this is a quarter sawn antique pine. This antique pine is from the 1800s. So there's a few little divots and little nail marks that kind of got left in there just so that it would give it its character. Because if I kept building and building and building and building, well, I might as well have just built it out of Honduran mahogany or maple and finished it pretty. So anyway, it's a very vocal guitar, and if you're a player and you really want something that's extremely, snappy and really a lot of stage presence, and not just looks, from a functional standpoint, I think this is an awesome little guitar. And speaking of that, I'm going to segue right into. I've got a. Yeah, fortunately I do. I was afraid it was upstairs. The whole idea about the design of this guitar was for the performing musician. I lived up in Nashville for a long time, and a lot of my buddies are actual either studio musicians or they're either performing musicians. And by spending time with them and talking to them about, what it is you like, what it is you need, most of them are running wireless packs when they're performing. And they're very likely they're not sitting down. So I designed this where the guitar will actually plug in right here, and then this will go behind the strap, get locked in by the strap, and then go into your wireless. So I love it because there's not a cord, flopping around down here that you might trip up on, or any of that stuff. It's very streamlined, and I've never seen anybody do this in a Flying V design. So anyway, uh, I love that, and believe it or not, you might look at that and go, "Oh man, there's no way you could play that because it would really dig into your thigh." Because the way we allow the flying V to straddle our thigh when we're sitting down, you don't feel it, and I don't know how to clarify that without just handing it to you, but you just don't feel it. And I was worried about that thing. Well, maybe I need to put it back here. But the more research I did, it works really well. Now, if someone doesn't like that and they want me to drill a hole in the top and maybe drill another hole in the back, we'll talk about it, but I'll have to put a plate over that, and I really don't want to do that just because this is my design and I've built so many of these this way. I really prefer to keep this going. We'll cross that bridge otherwise, but I won't do that for free. I'm not going to be doing any of this type machine work for free. Okay. So let me check the time, see where we are. We're at 9 minutes already. I did spend quite a bit of time talking about the theory of that. So I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit, but let me get myself back on track and let's talk about just the specs of this little guitar. And I'll do a quick flyby. This is Honduran mahogany. one-piece neck. That is a 17-degree pitch headstock. That's incredibly rare. Call any custom luthier and ask them what they would charge to build you a custom flying V with antique pine body, quarter sawn, Honduran mahogany one-piece neck, 17-degree pitch headstock. I'm going to make sure I don't drop this thing. Tapered from just under 5/8 of an inch down to just right at 9/16 of an inch. In other words, it has the authentic jazz taper. It's not square right there. It's tapered. This is all custom build per like jazz guitar specs. So I say that to say this: if you call someone, this would be a pretty pricey guitar. So it's going to be a smoking deal for someone. Okay, double adjustable truss rod. Covered the 17-degree pitch headstock I've got right now. I've got these cut at a quarter inch, and we'll talk about tuners in a little while. I'm planning on putting the historically accurate tuners on there, but there's a part of me that I really kind of want to hold off until auction close because someone may want to go with a different tuner, and then I will already put the imprint of the big Cluson plate. So I may hold off on all that stuff. Got some tape stuck to me. I may hold off on that type of stuff, but I don't know. We'll cover that bridge later. There's a little bit of flame in the Honduran right there I'm looking at. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can get it to pick up. But this neck, the chatoyancy is on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'm going to be really, really critical. The chatoyancy is about a 6 to a 7, but every now and then, all of a sudden, you'll catch a point where it's a 9 out of 10. It's not a heavily figured, but I'm looking at it right there. It does have some absolutely beautiful flame. Okay. Honduran mahogany into an antique pine body, as we already covered. The body is 1 5/8 of an inch thick. I don't have to measure that. I should know that off the top of my head. But the cool thing about this body is let me make sure I covered the body enough. The body being what it is, it doesn't have a cap. It is solid quarter sawn antique pine all the way up to the Delmar. And this is just what I just said. This is Delmar drum wrap that Gretsch used. And I don't know if Slingerland used this color, but anyway, there might be some other. This is drum wrap. And I've been installing this stuff for a long time because I used to restore vintage Gretsch silver jets and guitars like that. And I've built a lot of custom sparkle tellies like per the Buck Owens specs. So I'm really good at working with that stuff and the contact cement, keeping it really thin, but doing a really good job. And the cool thing about the Delmar drum wrap, when you put it on any wood, it's amazing how it doesn't mellow it out too much. It does not get muddy, but it really brings the body together. And it's hard to explain unless you've just ever played a Gretsch, but or a telly with a sparkle top. But it's got a beautiful tone. It does not hurt the tone at all. But what I was going to cover here, this is, and I hope it's not glaring. I'll just have to move it so it doesn't. Hopefully, it does not glare for you. But this is a two-piece binding where it starts out with a 20 thousandths black, and then I finish out with a 60 thousandths cream. And this is an all parts cream, which is my favorite binding. I love this binding. It's just comes right out of the gate. It's just a beautiful uh, natural color. Unfortunately, it's a little bit hard, and I don't think it was really designed for turning corners this sharp. So it did break right there, but I glued it back together. It's a little bit visible. You see it if you're looking for it, but otherwise, if you're not looking for it, you don't see it. Um, it stayed perfectly true from here all the way down. No breaks. I'm talking about the installation of the binding. And then when I got right here, it did break completely in half, and I had to glue it back together because this was one really long piece, like 67 inches long, and it stayed perfectly true right here, did not break, perfectly true all the way down this body line right here. But once I got to this corner right here, it almost cracked right there, but I was able to get it under control, but it did break right there. But I was able to glue it back together. Again, why I started out in the beginning of the video, if you're looking for a showcase guitar to stick in a glass case, this ain't your guitar. This is a player's guitar. And if little things like that bother you, then that's okay. That's cool. I respect that. But just I don't want anybody thinking that I'm trying to pawn off something that looks or that I'm trying to hide something. Okay, let's throw something else under the bus. Let me see which way it might show up on the camera. I think it's going to show up on the camera best like this right here. Look in this area right here, and then look in this area right here. Okay, this Delmar drum wrap came from an estate from a guy who was a musician in LA back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and he passed away about 10 years ago. I bought a ton of his stuff. I bought every bit of his Delmar drum wrap. I had some drum wrap from like the 50s and 60s, but this is not from that era. But I'm saying that this stuff has a little bit of an imperfection right there and right there. But hey, I didn't care because it's such a beautiful wrap. What year is this drum wrap? I have no idea, but I know it's not vintage. It's probably from the 80s or 90s, maybe, or it could be from the 70s. But I don't think I know it's not from the 50s because I can see the flake is a little bit more modern. So I just want to point that out that there's a little bit of an imperfection there, a little bit of an imperfection there, and some build marks, where she came together. But again, things that do not affect the tone. So I covered the Delmar, I covered the antique pine, I covered the Honduran mahogany. It has a Indian rosewood fretboard. I do not have the frets installed yet. I'm still doing some painting. I'm about to paint the black nitrocellulose lacquer headstock face, and I'm about to paint the black stinger. But I got to tell you, there's a possibility I'm not going to paint the stinger until it sells, because this is some of the best headstock ear glue up that I've ever done, and it virtually looks like a one-piece neck headstock. There's a strong possibility I'm not going to put a stinger on this one before it sells. But if someone wants a stinger, this is a stinger. We'll talk about that in a little while, but that's a stinger, and you'll see that in the listing. That and I got to tell you, it's sexy. It look really good. So I reserve the right to change my mind, and if you don't like that, then don't bid on it. So the stinger is really sexy, and that's something that's very rare. So, but it looks incredible without it as well. I think it looks better with the stinger. So we'll see. I'm not there yet, but I doubt I will be doing that stinger today. I say that, I don't know. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge later on. So let me check the time, and we're probably going to move into discussing my design, what it took to get there, to get there with this guitar, as well as I've got a bit of a point list. I'm just going to read off some stuff, and then we're going to really start going into the world of doing some mock-up and stuff like that, as I mentioned on the front of the video. And hopefully you'll be able to see, the myriad of options that you might have with this guitar. And when I initially started building it, there was a part of me, I was kind of building it to be one of my own personal guitars, but I had not built any of these replica Les Pauls yet, and I got to tell you, I'm getting pretty good at building them, and I really love that guitar. And eventually, you have to thin the herd, as we all know. So let me pause, get organized, look at my point list, and I'll see how we want to continue with the second part of the video. Okay, let's dive back in for a brief moment, and then we'll start doing some mock-up. When I had mentioned that imperfection right there, when I received the drum wrap, it had some sort of like a crease in the back. It's not like it's scarred on the top, because when you start turning the guitar, you only see those little imperfections just ever so often, and just in other words, all the sparkle is still there and all the gold is still there. Okay. It's not like it's a nasty scar. Again, I didn't really want to talk about it, but since this video is geared for someone who's considering buying this guitar, there are certain players out there that want a guitar that is, really, really, really pretty and really snappy. So let's talk about design construction for a brief moment. Um, when I build my bodies, I always leave the bodies right at about 7/16 inch thick wherever the potentiometers are going through. I bottom out the bottom adjustable nut, put on the lock washer, and then once you go through the body and you put the face washer on, and then obviously the nut on the top. It I've got my bodies designed to where the nut basically goes down plenty, fully threads, and there's just barely, you really can't see the top of the threads, and then the knob goes on. It's perfect. So it leaves all of that mass material thickness right there for tone. And I might do a tone analysis at the end, but I've done tone analysis on this body throughout the whole build series, and I don't want to waste time with that because A, it's loud as hell, and it's really annoying for guys that are not into guitar building. So I just want to point that out, that there's so much engineering that has gone into this design in order to get it refined, so that it's really there just really isn't any improvement. There just really isn't much room, if any room, for improvement at all, other than maybe I should heat the binding a little bit more when I install it so it doesn't risk cracking, because those are some really sharp curves right there. So I'll go ahead and do this real time. It might really slow the video down, or extend the video. It might make it a really long video, but you'll see just how quickly it goes together when you really, as they say, plan your work and work your plan. And I'm having to do this so it's on camera, so I might. Oh, went okay. Plan your work, work your plan, and the projects usually end up working really well. The benefit of this particular guitar right here, it's not the prototype. It's the seventh guitar that I built. So I can assure you, I moved these locations of about a 16th of an inch to an eighth of an inch throughout all of the builds in order to get the guitar exactly where I wanted it. And and so I say that to say this: the guitar is really stunning, and it's also really functional. Everything's in a really comfortable place. Positioning of everything. Um, and the cool thing about this design, I always call this like the Karina design. What I mean by that is everything about this guitar is based on the historical 50 specs. The distance from across the wing, this thing is almost 16 and 7/8 of an inch. She's not shy at all. And this radius right here, it's got the traditional 50s width. And then also right here at the shoulder, that's the traditional. I don't know that I can't think of the diameter or the radius of that, but I do know that they're historically accurate. Okay, and I apologize. I should have done that info, but they are historically accurate. And the distance, like if you set this on the table and you measure from here to here, and obviously from there to there, it's all historically accurate per the 50s Carina specs. And if you come back here and you measure across the shoulders, pretty sure it's 4 and 4, and I think it's over 4 and 3. Let me just measure it, and I should have measured this before I did the video, but I don't want to mislead anyone. Where I'm going with this, she's not narrow at all. It is a really nice, healthy, um, historically accurate width. It's just slightly over 14 3/4. One could actually say it's 14 3/4, 4 3/4. It's actually greater than 4 3/4. It's closer to 4 13/16 from this width here to that width right there. Okay, that's a really nice, sweet width, and the shoulders are very close to being historically accurate, but mine are not quite as flat right here. They have just a little bit more radius right there. And personally, if you want to know the truth, my guitar is far more attractive, and but it still has that historical look to it. And we've already talked about that enough for me to not continue with that conversation. It will require a deep well nut if you were to change this in the future. But just know, I'll show you the machining. When I machined for my three-way, and I won't be able to use this one because this is for a Les Paul. It's too tall. I'm going to have to order a short one, but I don't want to order one yet until I find out whether you want it to be gold or whether you want it to be nickel or whether you want it to be chrome, whether you want it to be cream tipped or black tipped or amber tipped. I'll end up spending $300 on items that someone would only select one. So you can see how I've got my design where it's actually uh, toggling this way, but you could still turn it and toggle, virtually, straight up and down. Right now it's toggling pretty much in line with this bottom line right here, which is really comfortable. And you literally can reach down with your pinky, and it's just so sweet when you're playing it and just get a good access, which I think is very close to the historical location. But it is a deep well face nut. And these are always a little bit tricky because they're once you do the lacquer, uh, it's to encourage it a little bit. Beautiful, very, very nice and clean. Again, I've built a bunch of guitars, so I know kind of, what it is you're shooting for on your initial machine work in order for all of this to finish out perfectly. It's not too far down in the body or it's not too far up in the body, and I don't go with just the real narrow face screws because you have to cut the body, you have to machine the body so thin. Okay. So the next thing would be, how do I want to do this? Yeah, I'll go ahead and do this. These pickups are not included, but I'll have to. Let me pause briefly and get this monster in because it's got some banjo work here with the wire, and it might make a fool out of me on camera. Okay, wasn't too bad. Took just a second or two. I think it's a sufficient hole for 2 wires. I can't remember. I think it's a quarter of an inch. Goes right into the cavity. But the way you would wire it this way, because in the event someone buys this and they want to install their own pickups or have their luthier do it, you can see how I've got the guitar designed um, to function. Okay. And that'll go straight down into there. This wire is really screwed up on the end. If there's anything, I love to leave as much wood as I can in all of these harness, these harness channels and control cavities and stuff like that body thickness and stuff like that. It's not that I'm cheap. It's just like I really want to do. I just want to leave as much guitar. When I say guitar, I'm talking about the acoustic guitar. I always like to try to leave as much acoustic guitar in there as I can. And I'm going to try to be real still. No, let me go ahead and I'll show it briefly and then I'll put some knobs on there. So since we don't have the bridge on there, you can see where everything's coming in the control cavity. And it's very much clean and clear, nothing interfering with any of the electronics, and then can be wired accordingly. I actually intentionally designed these things so that you could put a clear acrylic pick guard control cavity cover on there if you wanted to, just to really showcase, like if you had some really beautiful old oil and paper, caps and stuff like that. To me, that stuff's really attractive to see, and it showcases the luthier's ability to do really beautiful work as well. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I'm not going to do that, but I'm not saying I won't. I do have the acrylic, but the I haven't measured the thickness of it. But the thickness of this ledge is about 3 times, if not 4 times, deeper than your traditional ledge. It is 4 and it's almost 5 millimeter. It's super thick or deep. And then because I'm going to be machining a control cavity cover that is also antique pine that will probably have upwards of 6 to 10 screws, little machine screws all the way around. And therefore, what will happen once you have that physical quarter sawn antique pine plate, it now turns this back into more of a solid back, and this becomes more of like a chambered area of the guitar. So again, I'm thinking on levels here that typically most jazz guitar builders would be thinking. I'm not just sticking, some, black 3-ply plate up in there, and you can see the substantial difference between, your plate and that. And there's no acoustic properties from the plastic at all. But when you have a control cavity that large that goes over that, and it's solid wood, and then it's not just one screw here, one screw there, one screw there, one screw there. If you got 2 screws here, probably 3 right here, maybe 1 right there, and probably 4 down through here, it really reconnects this part to that part and reconnects the guitar. Okay, I got way too long-winded on that, but you got to see just how much of a geek I am when it comes to building guitars. Um, for you guys that are not aware, I used to build hand-carved acoustic jazz guitars per Robert Benedetto's specs. I did not work for Benedetto, but I built guitars per his video series. I lived up in Franklin, Tennessee for about 15 years, give or take, and met some incredibly cool players, and was building, jazz guitars on the side. So I learned a whole lot about guitar building by building all of the acoustic guitars per Benedetto specs. But I always loved, like the Gretsch hollow bodies and stuff like that. So a true calling would be probably chambered guitars, which is, as you can see, the last 6 months to a year, that's all I've been building is the chambered Les Paul replica, and redefining kind of that guitar with a bit of a Gretsch-esque approach. So let me pause, fasten those a little bit, and I'll show you my trickery, how you do that without screwing up the threads. Okay, this is probably going to be a fairly long video, but there's your trickery, because these studs are going to be relatively long, and you're typically going to be working from a pack where screwing these up, it's not an option. So what this is, that is the end of a business card, cut off, folded over, wrapped around the end, and then it's double cardboard. So these little vice grips, it's a pretty serious clamp, but not crushing. You'll be crushing the paper up into the thread, and that will give you plenty of strength to really work that thing down to the height you want. And then you want to measure up, and set the height from there. So I'm going to stop talking about that because I'm not really showing you how to build a guitar in this video. But nonetheless, what you could do if you're, what I do, I keep a stock of these. I'll go to like my local big box. I think these are number 6, 32 threads per inch, and buy these in stainless steel, and then you could use those because they still have the Phillips head top to get you started, and then that will kind of tap the wood to receive your studs once you open this packet up. That way you don't inadvertently screw anything up. And looking down, it prompted me to realize, oh yeah, I need to discuss this. This is critically important because this is the heart of the guitar for a player. This dimension right here is, I know it's 11 sixteenths, but that is 15, 16, 17, a 17 millimeter. And I just know that that's where the guitar is because I've built so many of them. So the center strings are going to be hovering about 11 sixteenths of an inch off of the body, which is 17 millimeter. What does that equate to? An incredibly comfortable guitar. This is a 2-degree pitch neck. It's not going in, at 0 degree like a Tele or a Strat or anything like that. It is a pitched neck, but I know what I'm doing because if you miss that by half a degree, it doesn't even feel like a quality guitar. So she feels really good. The next move will be, and I'm going to have to so bridle myself to not do this, but these are Tone Ninja anchors. They are, let me find my magnet. I have a little magnet here. These are steel, and man, that's the second part of the most important part of the Tone is getting really quality anchors. And I go with the extremely long anchors. I think they're an inch long, should be about 20. No, they're probably longer than that. It's 30 millimeter, whatever 30 millimeter is. It's fairly tall. It's the really tall one but it's not going to go all the way through the body because I like running the Bigsby on a B5 or the Vibramate, the B5 Bigsby on a top of Vibramate because I want to have the ability to turn this into a vibrato guitar if I want to, or stay with the authentic hardtail. Okay, so that's what I meant by I'm going to have to really bridle myself to not drill these holes because they may elect to not go with this type bridge and they might prefer that I machine these anchor locations up here so that they could then do like the Leo Kwan wraparound or whatever's the new kid on the block now. I haven't used that type bridge in a long time, but I know I had an early 60s SG when I was a kid. We're talking about back in the early 80s when I had this guitar and it had the Leo Kwan Badass on it. I got to tell you, that thing was exactly that. It was an awesome bridge. And I love that configuration, the simplicity of it all. So I'm not going to machine this until it sells and someone tells me, absolutely, man, put them in there. I'm not selling you this because this is a patent pending Vibramate, but it will be per the specs. This is extremely important. So the centering from here to here is different on the USA made guitars versus the metric. So when I install these anchors, they will be for the Kluson USA tail, or they will also marry up perfectly to the Vibramate, which is made in USA. Okay, so I'm not going to do anything metric that might throw you because you might. Oh, let me make sure I clarify this. I'm not going to machine that until the guitar sells and someone tells me absolutely I do want that bridge, and then they may tell me I hate the whole idea of a Bigsby on a guitar. Well, that's cool. It's your guitar. Then don't ever put one on there. Or someone might say, well, that's cool because that if I ever do change my mind, all I got to do is loosen up my strings, pull that tail off, and then screw this baby down into those anchors. And voila, we got a what's his name, Lonnie Mac. You got, or you getting close to a Lonnie Mac. You could put a B7 on there if you wanted to. It would extend way the hell back here, which would be kind of crazy. But nonetheless, and I don't want to pick the guitar because I don't want anything falling apart. But you should be able to see that and see my reasoning for not doing any machining just yet. And it's because let's say that were the big Leo Kwan type wraparound, it would be really, really incredible looking from a visual standpoint, and it would show all that beautiful gold real estate. Okay, so like doing stuff like that, and the fact that I haven't machined it yet should make this thing even all the more valuable. So let's talk about knobs a little bit. I don't know if I laid that up on the guitar to give you an idea. Let me back up. Let me slow down. Uh, Roughly, it's going to be roughly right there. I'm not going to measure it. This is just a knockoff, cheap thing for doing demo displays and stuff. But this will give you an idea if you were going to go with a gold one, um, which I think would be really cool. The nickel would be beautiful as well. But sometimes there's nothing wrong with going all out. You know, we're talking gold knobs, gold Bigsby, you know, gold this, gold that. But let me kind of reel myself back in a little bit here. Uh, the B5 is beautiful on the Flying V. Really love it. It's really sexy. And the cool thing about the higher you can get this up, you're still able to go over this traditional AVR1 bridge, but this front hold down bar is still just low enough that it's a perfect pitch for the strings coming off at the back of those saddles. They don't have to angle down on a real steep angle. You know, for you guys that don't understand what I'm talking about, the whole objective of installing a Bixby on a guitar is if you don't have the vibramate, the Bixby's all the way down on the body, well, then that increases the pitch angle. And it's usually not really a problem unless you're fairly aggressive. But by going with the vibramate that is installed into the existing studs, and if I forget, one of the studs is where the ground wire will go. But if you have the Bixby installed atop the vibramate, now your pitch angle here gets really, really manageable. What does that equate to? Incredible tuning stability. Okay, so there's a lot of engineering going on here, and I've got a lot of knowledge because I've worked with Bigsby's for a long time. Because practically every guitar I ever built, the first 10 to 15 years when I was building, I was designing the guitar around whatever Bigsby I had found on eBay, and I was picking up Bigsby's for $150 that were from the late 50s and early 60s, just all day long. And I just had all these Bigsby's piled up in my shop. And it's like, I'll never be able to build enough guitars to catch up with all the Bigsby's that I owned. But let's do, which is that's a that's an incredibly cool problem to have. Uh, and I still have quite a few of those. But, start out with the gold first. And I may have to pause here briefly and really get myself back on point so that this doesn't turn into too terribly long video. Let me clean this up a little bit because I'm probably going to snap some still photos for the eBay listing based on what's in front of us, because that's very close to a finished guitar. It's really good. Very, very attractive. Let me stop right there. Stop right there. Okay. So there's the gold. Let's see if these will come off with these. I've only got this one because I built I think it was Flying V number 5 that had the red sparkle. The guy wanted the black, and yeah, they do. They look really good. So just imagine black. And what do they call? I think they call these the top hats. I'm not going to try to put these on because I've never tried to install them, and I don't want them getting trapped on there and have to. Let's try it. Let's see. Let's live a little bit. I say all that to say this. I've never liked speed knobs, even though I'm not going to try to put them on there. I don't want to risk screwing that up shaft up. But that's what the speed knob would look like. It's okay. It doesn't drive me crazy. I'm not really crazy for it. But anyway, I'll get those off. You've seen those enough. Strangely enough, this might actually be kind of cool. These are the dark amber gold. Probably not, probably too much. But okay. So what I'm going to do is let me pause and think about how I want to go into discussing the dimensional aspects of the headstock design. Okay, I had forgotten to show it with uh, the nickel tailpiece. That is a Cluson USA uh, aluminum nickel. And I can do the relic work, and I think I'm fairly good at it. But it would be extra. So if you do want relic hardware, we'll need to communicate about that because it would take me some additional work to pull that off. But it is really beautiful if you were to go with like the vintage look. Uh, Again, it's funny. You're really happy with your work when you kind of start grieving a little bit, thinking, oh, I'm not sure I want to sell this. That's why I got too many projects on the table. So it'd be nice to see it go to someone who would really could really enjoy it, and hopefully someone who's truly performing. Because the number 5 Red Sparkle guitar went to Boston, and that guy actually plays in Boston. So if you see a Red Sparkle Flying V that looks just like this one, that'll be. But it has a Floyd Rose on it. That'll be the guitar that I built. Okay, so pretty cool. And again, these pictures right here, I probably will snap a couple of these pictures and upload them to eBay. And that way someone can see what I'm building or what I'm offering. Let me pause briefly and get collected. Well, that may set right back. I just have two little, that should be close enough. Close enough for rock and roll. Yeah, that's pretty close to what the guitar would look like. I'm, I'm off a little bit. Nothing wrong with being a little bit vain. But all joking aside, I really think it would be an awesome little stage guitar. So let me pause, get organized, then we're going to start talking about headstock dimensions, and we'll finish the video there. Okay, I've paused for quite a while, so I can't really remember where I had left off. But one thing I did forget to mention that the typical output jack that I install in this design is the Telecaster socket, which I really like, works really well. But if you prefer a standard plate, I can put that on there. I've already discussed that a little bit. I'd really prefer to leave the jack location down here, but I don't have a problem doing just a traditional 50s plate versus the telly plate, but the telly plate looks really good. Secondly, these pickups, nor are these pickup rings included, but I will include the Gibson Historical Cream pickup, which they look okay. I really like the parchment, the more stark white, but I'll provide these for free, no charge, and they'll be installed with the little stainless screws. I don't have black screws. These will have, no, I may be wrong. Now I'll cross that, but I'll mention it in the ad. Because I don't want to get too long winded there. What else should I talk about? I'm not including the relic bridge, but I will be including the Cluson nickel, and it will be getting the brand new bridge. I've already shown it. It'll be getting the brand new Cluson bridge with the nylon saddles. It will be getting all the CTS pots. Those are 525K within 5%. I always get the good stuff, so those will be really high quality pots. The 3-way will be Switchcraft, 3-way, and it will be the tip will be your own personal preference, whether it's black, amber, or cream. I don't know if they make anything else. We've already talked about the electronics enough. Well, actually, no, I didn't, but I'll mention it in the ad. All right, so the next thing will be I want to move this a little bit so I can take some photos of this. Because if you want to know my opinion, that's my favorite guitar right there, with the antique relic slash nickel uh, bridge. Even though it's just sitting up atop two nuts, it's not, it's close enough for rock and roll. But that really shows you when you look, when you sight down that line. And I didn't get to, I don't want to pick it up because I don't want things sliding apart. But when it comes to being a precision guitar, this thing is precision straight. There's nothing about these lines that are funky or show any sort of imperfections. And what's amazing is you can stand this guitar up on a perfectly level surface and you can put a square on it. And anywhere you put that square, it's perfectly symmetrical. So this is a very well balanced guitar per the Carina specs. When I say Carina, the vintage guitar. So the pickups are not included, but they sure look good in person. So and I also have some black Gibson. These are Gibson. I do have the black as well, so I will provide the black if you prefer that. But I like the parchment or the cream because man, does it ever look really good with the cream binding, the all parts binding. I just think it looks really nice. Would be really incredible if you went with nickel, vintage nickel covers or gold as well. So sky's the limit. All right, let's push this to the side a little bit. Let's talk about dimensions, about my headstock. And this was in the making for years until I could get it right because I never could stand the large headstock on the Flying V. It's just way too much headstock. But from a dimensional standpoint, what my headstock ended up at, it's 3 7/16 of an inch. I'm gonna blow through this really fast. It's 3 7/16 of an inch width from here to here. It is 7 5/8 of an inch from the top of the nut to the top of the headstock. Okay, and then these are the tuner locations are spaced at 1 3/8 of an inch, and that is sufficient to allow you to run Grover tuners with imperial knobs, which are really beautiful. The I don't know, 4 or 5 Flying V's back, I built a hollow body with that headstock, and I had gold Grover imperial tuners on it, and it was really bizarre. It was so cool. It was very sexy. It was and it was cool. Even though they were big, they didn't take up that much footprint. So these are not too close together that you wouldn't be capable of doing with either your traditional, your traditional tuner, vintage. This is a Gato, which is a really impressive little tuner, the vintage look. And I'm not so certain I'm going to be providing the tuners yet because these go on one of my other guitars, but we'll cross that bridge. I've already covered that because I didn't want to put them on because I didn't know what someone might want. But we'll cross that bridge later on. But the spacing would look really good for even a large tuner. What else did I need to cover? I don't really think anything. Otherwise, it's going to get pretty boring. It's 2 1/4 of an inch from the top of the nut to the very beginning of that first one. So if you guys are true Flying V aficionados, you can see that my headstock is scaled down about 10%. And does it look good? Well, and the cool thing is I don't even have to show that. I don't even have to pick that guitar up because this is it right here. I think it looks great. And the cool thing about it is these were actually installed. So from a standpoint, what I should have done was install these before I did the video to show you what the scale looks like. But I paid extreme attention to detail about these curvatures right here, making certain that everything, that the bottom of corner of this didn't encroach on that arc. So, very, very much, I paid very much attention to detail to the historical guitar, but I just scaled everything down a little bit. And even when you get this tuner in and that tuner in, there's still plenty of space between the tuners up here that they're not encroaching on one another. Okay. So anyway, it's not my first guitar. It's not my first Flying V, and I spent a lot of time really making certain that once you flip it over, it truly looks like a Flying V, and even a vintage one. But having the playability of a custom built modern guitar. So I don't think there's any sense in talking about that. I may have not clarified. It is a 12-inch radius fretboard. We'll be getting a Jessicar medium, be getting a Jessicar wide medium, and these are the fret of choice. A lot of guys are using these now in custom shops, and everyone's extremely happy with these. I don't know if they're manufactured in Germany, but I think they were designed in Germany. They're 18% nickel, and man, they install just like that. They level just like that. They just have an incredible tone. And I will be once all the frets go in, I will be actually jet gluing them in, or CA gluing them, or either epoxy. So they'll be epoxied in and or jet glued in. I'm sorry, I call it jet glue. It's called CA glue. And I've done a lot of frets, so I know what it takes to get a really phenomenal fret job, not just from a physical playable standpoint, but from a tonal standpoint as well. So in case you guys really know your specs out there, I use a 1-inch radius bit to do my initial rough out. What does that equate to? Late 50s, early 60s, very fast, very comfortable neck. She's not fat and chunky at all. It's going to be under 7/16. I better be careful here. I think it's right at 7/8 of an inch thick at the first fret, and it's going to be right at about 1 inch thick at the 11th fret. This should be in the listing because I did spec it before I paper taped it off. The fret work will probably happen tomorrow, and then I will go from there. But I'm not going to apologize for a long, lengthy video, because if I'm getting ready to spend, money on a guitar that I've never seen before, I would really want to hear the luthier talk about, his expertise, and not just his expertise in building guitars, because I don't care how many Tellys or Strats or Les Pauls, or you pick your poison, you've built, until you build a Flying V, you will have never been humbled like you got humbled by building the Flying V. This thing kicked my ass. Not this one, but the first 3 to 4 just really, really humbled me. It's a very difficult guitar to build, keeping everything perfectly symmetrical and perfectly straight and perfectly true, and this, that, and the other. And then in addition to that, doing a gold sparkle top and doing a 2-piece binding. It really is a very custom guitar. So I appreciate you guys staying in the ring. It was a very long video. I can't think of anything that I need to talk about other than I may have already covered it, but straight down the middle, it's a 50s Gibson replica, because it is based on these templates right here that were from a 59. So, and I'm just going to read off my list. And the cool thing about this design is it does not connect the guitar body at the 19th fret. I designed this whole guitar around the concept of connecting at the 18th fret, and it allowed me to move everything in one fret. And what did it do? It alleviated every bit of the headstock dive. So I should have opened the video with that. My Flying V's do not have the headstock dive problem, but you still have phenomenal access to your upper register, because we're looking at an 18th fret connection rather than the 19th. And the 19th fret would be about there. It's about maybe 1/2 of an inch. So that's it. I've covered everything in my list. I really appreciate you guys watching. Again, I will apologize to some degree if I got redundant, but I would really want to know, what's in front of me if I was getting ready to pull the trigger on something like this. So I don't think we talked about the stinger, though. Other than I think I did. I'm going to cover this just briefly, and then I'm going to end the video. That's called a stinger, and it is usually done to hide glue up lines or any sort of work you do with the headstock. and it's very rare. And I thought the cool thing about the fact that this Honduran mahogany is going into the black nitrocellulose lacquer body, well, that stinger sure is a sexy connection between the two. And then the front of the face would be black nitro as well. So spent a lot of time with this one as far as the design goes, but I am looking forward to getting back to just building arch tops. So appreciate you guys checking in. I'll see you in the next video.